Again, says the Kadakemach, that indeed when a person finds himself in a matz of tzara, he should remember and practice bitachon to an extent of saying, wait a second, why was this tzara yesterday? Eloma, yesterday this tzara also came my way, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved me from the tzara. So I have to have bitachon that now that it's coming, it's also HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind it. And therefore a person has to remember and train his mind and ingrain in his mind the truth that there is no such a thing as another human being harming me. It's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'gzeirosoi who is sending stuff my way, whether it seems to be bad or whether it seems to be good. As the pasuk says, "V'anoichi Hashem Elokecha roiga hayom vayemu galav Hashem tzvoko shemoi." Keloima, says the Kadakemach, "Anihu asoi hayom v'amashkitam yosoi." Who do you think is the one that makes the storm in the first place on the ocean? Who is the one that calms it down? And the pasuk there says, says the Kamach, what does that mean? What is a human being? On the one hand, he's trying to get food so he can eat. And then a few minutes later, all his mind and body thinks of is to get rid of the food. And then again, trying to get food again, and then getting rid of the food. And if he misses one of these two steps, whether he can't eat or he can't get rid of the food, he dies. How can a person have bitachon in such a thing? How can a person have bitachon in a human being that his entire life depends on such two simple actions of he has to eat or he dies, he has to get rid of the food or he dies? Says the Navi, how can a person have bitachon in that? It would be disgusting to have bitachon in a human being, or to fear a human being for that matter, instead of having pure bitachon b'Hashem Yisbarach. V'amar David alav Shalom, toiv lachshus b'Hashem miftach ba'adam. What does that mean? Says the Kadakemach, biuroi ki yesh hefresh bein lashon chasir bein lashon bitachon. The word that David HaMelech says is toiv lachshus b'Hashem. It's not that a person should have bitachon b'Hashem miftach ba'adam. Says the Kadakemach, why? Because of course here we're talking about a scenario where you have a haftacha, a promise from a human being. So for David HaMelech to say it's better to have the promise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu instead of the promise of a human being, that's obvious, he doesn't have to say that. But that's not what David HaMelech says. Toiv lachshus b'Hashem, just rest in the shade of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just be there, b'tzillah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, without the promise. Even without that promise, it's still better than to be within the promise of a human being. Because if a person rests in the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in other words, he relies only on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is certain, that is for sure, there is no doubt there. But from a human being, even if he promises you something, there is no way of knowing that he'll actually be able to fulfill it. Maybe he won't be able to fulfill what he promised. And even if he is able to fulfill, maybe he won't want to do it at that point. That's what David HaMelech didn't say. It's better to have bitachon b'Hashem. In other words, it's better to rely on his promise. You don't have to say that even. In other words, a person has to rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu as if the promise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always there. Because indeed, as these Rishonim have told us so many times, if a person has bitachon and he practices his bitachon, the reward of that bitachon will be that it will save him from any harm that might come his way. Have a wonderful day.